As we think about the world today, we've gone through the pandemic of, 2019, 2020, I guess 2020, and here we are starting to emerge from it. In what ways have you seen the pandemic affect what the company's data and analytic insight needs are? And how is this informing the role of the CDO or the chief data and analytics leader within the organization? What's different today than in 2019?
So look, I have to say that to me, the pandemic has been the ultimate data and analytics stress test, because it has exposed the data and analytic weaknesses in organizations, and in order to have understood the pandemic from a business perspective, from employees, from your suppliers, from your customers, being able to understand where their customers were, what was the supply chain looking like, how were their where were the employees, where were they all feeling? I mean, that if you didn't have a solid data and analytic foundation, you were really chasing it in a manual way. So it has been the ultimate stress test of that. And as a result of the pandemic, I do see more and more investments in data analytics than there was before. I mean, all our customers are definitely saying that. The other important change is that the role of experience data, that survey data that we call experience data, but that real time data that gives you that pulse has become really important. And it was so very much a factor for customers and surveys. But in the pandemic, it was really to understand where your employee were, what their emotions were, where were your customers, where was their emotions and levels of thinking around this topic. So experience data became a lot more important, as was real-time third-party data. And I talk about this all the time, is that in the past, a lot of our data was just our external data, and we bought some third-party data, but it wasn't like we have to do it today, because a lot of the data that we have in our companies today doesn't help us predict the future, because the future is so much now affected by the pandemic data. And so you need more real-time data, you need more third-party data, you need to ingest other kinds of input in your analytics. And that also has raised the profile of the need for third-party data. And then, the fourth is the push toward digitization, automation, AI, and ML. Many companies were already doing that, right? And that's all based and grounded on good data. But also the pandemic has accelerated a lot of that investment, because customers are seeing that is the way of the future, especially in reacting to a situation like we had in the pandemic. So again, I think it's been a great stress test for us. And on the personal side, I would say that data and analytics has also been so important in our daily lives now. Think about the dashboards and the numbers and the data that we were getting about the state of the pandemic, where we were with that, the states and the vaccination rates and the non-vaccination rates. And so data and analytics became a critically important part of everyday life and the decisions that you made for yourself personally. And that's phenomenal, really, when you think about that.
And just how much more insight and how much more preparedness and responsiveness we could generate as a result of that insight to navigate through a very, perilous time period with, relatively minimal, consequences in terms of loss of life and those kinds of things.
Yeah. And I would say too, it's also shown us what a good dashboard and what are the questions you need to be asking about those dashboards. Because when you think about it, right, I mean, some would argue that some of it got politicized, right? And so did you even trust those numbers? What dashboard did you trust? What dashboard did you not trust? So, this whole aspect of data literacy and how to be able to understand the questions that you should be asking when you look at numbers became not just a business imperative, but it became a personal imperative as well.
Governance, data quality, those disciplines suddenly became important in terms of the veracity of the data that we were actually, consuming vis-a-vis these dashboards and the reports that were being published. You're exactly
absolutely
right.
Yeah.